Next speaker is Cecelia
Inwentarz.
and she'll be speaking to us about heart energy.
Yes.
If you want to walk around, carry that with you.
Well, hello everyone. It's wonderful to be here today. This is my first time speaking, and I'm going to speak a lot about the book that I wrote, which is Become the Butterfly, Experience Heartfelt Energy. And the butterfly has a heart in the center of it. As you may know, the butterfly is the symbol of transformation. And that's really what the heart is. It's the key and the way to your transformation. So, and then I'm the butterfly, so there you go. You know how they say that while you're busy making plans, things happen? Well, I'm a planner, and I was busy writing what I would say today, and then I left it home. So I thought that was amusing. This was also the first time that I have ever really been involved with the Spirit University. I belonged to the Sarasota Holistic Network for some time, but that went out of business. I don't know, lack of enthusiasm, inability to meet its goals or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it seems that this facility has what everyone is looking for. It has heart, it has soul. And I found it by deciding to take a class in writing because I had wanted to speak directly with my own soul, and I didn't have the mechanism for it. I discovered a long time ago that I was not a natural. You know what the naturals are? They're giving the readings up there. I was not a natural. I didn't know the naturals existed. I didn't know what they were doing. I didn't have any sense of what life was about. I was walking around, bumping into doors, thinking that I was planning my own life, and I was making things happen. And I got a rude awakening from that. I had a very dear friend who used to tell me in corporate America what was going to happen in meetings the next day. And I would say to her, Janet, how do you know that? Actually, I would point at her and I'd wiggle my finger and say, how exactly do you know that? And Janet would tell me that she had no idea. All she knew is that when she got up in the morning, she knew what was going to happen in the meeting, and she took it to be a heads up. And because I was her friend, she would share it with me. Well, that day we almost got fired because we were both sick of being yelled at by the boss. And we made a plan that when he started to yell, we were going to say that we had to go to the ladies' room and we were going to get up together and walk out. And that pretty much ended our meetings with the president. But it didn't end up with my curiosity with Janet. And Janet began to try to explain to me what it was that was happening to her, that she had been born naturally with her whole lifetime. And I found that by following Janet and the choices that Janet made and choices to accompany her to various types of Reiki teaching sessions and spiritual informational events, that maybe some of it would rub off on me. I didn't know how it would happen to me, but I thought maybe it would rub off on me because the decisions that I had been making for myself in my own life really weren't working out very well, or as well as I had thought. I was following what I had been trained. You know, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Cece with a baby carriage. And after that, I had no more instructions, so I didn't really know what was next for me to do. So I followed the man's track into corporate America until I met Janet. So we were fired at the same time. As happens in corporate America, they sell a division and tell 100 people to go find another job. And it was not so easy to do because a highly paid woman in a man's world is not going to be picked up by someone else in corporate America. So I became a serial entrepreneur. And in between times, I followed Janet. Janet became a Reiki master. I became a Reiki master. Janet went to meditations in New York City. I went to meditations in New York City. And pretty much I owe any kind of spiritual awakening to Janet, who's a very, very lovely person. I ended up being curious enough and being scientific enough and asking enough people how they do what they do to write a book about it. And I wrote the book about it not because I'm selling books. I wrote it to give to my clients because I wanted them to understand what was happening to them after they had a session with me. And I did a lot of technical work in those days. I had a bioresonance machine that I had purchased from Germany. After I had a session on it and I found out I was resonating with the emotion of being abandoned, and after the woman canceled out the negative energy of abandonment within me, I had to become a practitioner. There was no way I could ignore what had happened. And the abandonment happened from a little 8-year-old misinterpreting being moved from the city away from her grandmother. Because my grandmother was my mother while my mother wrestled with my crazy brother. And leaving her just left me with that dark feeling that followed me for a great part of my life. So what I found out most when I started to become a practitioner is that I wanted to deal with the energy of emotions and how important emotional energy is in the life of a human. Emotional energy is the catalyst for your law of attraction. And if you have had an experience and you don't feel your feelings fully, that experience will result in trapped energy being lodged in your heart, in different parts of your body, and being subject to different categories of emotion, be it a deep, dark one like abandonment, or just anxiety, or some sort of depression. And eventually anything that shows up in your body as energy will manifest into the physical. That's often how it operates. So I had learned that emotions being the most important, that it was important for me to be able to read people's emotions so that I could share with them what the issue was that they were resonating with. And that's when I learned to become a kinesiologist. I did not get any abilities such as clairvoyance, but I guess I have a kind of clairsentience that was, the catalyst was kinesiology, which is a fancy word for muscle testing. I think you may have heard of muscle testing. Your body knows what makes you weak and what makes you strong. And if you can find a way to talk to your body will be your truth meter or your personal GPS system. And so that's what I developed. And it wasn't long before, being a business person, I started to decide that I needed to have clients so that I could make money. And I was very proud of the money I made in those days because for every dollar that I made, I knew I was changing a person's life for the better by shifting their negative energy. Just in case you might think that you did something wrong, how many of you can remember being told to stop crying? Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. I'll give you something to cry about if you don't. And did really parents ever talk to their children about emotions or about how they felt about anything that happened? Emotions were just not the subject of discussion. And so we learned to shut down, ignore them, thinking they would go away, and unfortunately they don't. I don't use my machines anymore. I'm glad. I kind of felt more like a scientist than a healer. You had to hold these 2 wands in your hand, and I was afraid that, someone would feel they would get electrocuted, although it was electromagnetic, because we're electromagnetic. But I did learn powerful mind meditations, and I'm going to be fortunate enough to have a session on November, I think, 11. Either the 11th or the 15th, I forget now. I don't have my notes. I left them home. and it's going to be an hour-long session with 2 mind meditations. I give a free energy diagnosis where I use kinesiology, basically focused on the heart, but then also if I see any overt energy in different parts of the body on a little body map. And then you'll really learn the 2 release mechanisms that I'll use that day. And if you make a few notes, I think that you can conduct them on yourself in private, and you really will have a mechanism for healing yourself. I'm involved with a group right now where I'm spent 5 hours last night, tonight, and tomorrow night praying for the world and healing the world with a guru from New Zealand who is receives energy in very powerful ways to be able to give us messages like that. And I know that the heart is the key in the way. And if your heart is not open, there is no way for your brain, for your mind to ever be informed at the level at which we are going to be called to operate, where the masculine is in balance with the feminine, and where the emotions and the heart informs the mind for all decision making. Our ultimate destiny is to be a human of compassion. That is what we have learned, and that is what we are to go forward and be for the rest of society. And so I hope you'll, if you feel the need to have your heart or some other energy examined, let me give you a reading and then come on the 11th and we'll take care of it.